Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. A Heart of Ice and Ash. Episode 3. Chapter 31. Winter POV. It's my 18th birthday next week, which falls neatly into my plan. I doubt Damian even remembers. He's not celebrated any of my birthdays before, and it's not like Jonathan's going to know. All I have to do is hold on until then. Because then I can shift, I'll finally have my wolf, and that is the most important aspect of my plan. I'm leaving this place. I have no ties to my home, except for Damian, and I don't want to be a burden to him. In my condition, unable to talk to him, I'm not much of a sister, or someone he can talk to. I also know that he's planning on getting a job to look after us both, and while I would do the same, who would hire someone who was mute? I'm not stupid. It was easy enough to see the expression on the doctor and Damian's face. My vocal cords have been damaged beyond repair. It was only going to be more painful to have hope. I can't bear to go downstairs, see Damian, because if I spend too much time with him, in the next few days, then I might change my mind. I'm in so much agony by my decision, that my chest hurts and it feels tight, tears welling up in the corner of my eyes. Would I hurt my brother for doing this? Or would he be relieved to no longer have me, a burden, to contend with? As for Jonathan, he confused me. It's like he couldn't bear to be too far from me, or maybe it was guilt for rejecting me. I'd felt the mate bond sever, even if I hadn't really made a big deal of it. So he should be moving on with his life, just like I want to move on from mine. I refuse to feel bad about it. He'll find another mate. Hell, Jessica desperately wanted him, and she always gets what she wants eventually. I'd be surprised if he refused her advances a second time. I can't stay up here forever though. Damian's already suspicious, and so I force myself to come out of my room and go downstairs where I can hear Damian on the phone, presumably to some friend of his. I'm about to walk forward and let him know I'm there when I hear his conversation and realize he's talking about me. But to who? Yes sir, I really appreciate you taking the time to call. So you're of the opinion that she won't ever be able to talk again? Damian sounds frustrated, but I jolt, realizing he's talking to the doctor. What am I going to do? I can't be with her every hour of the day, Damian says, exasperated, and I flinch. He sounds so defeated, so broken as his voice cracks. Surely there's something you can do? Winter needs to be able to talk. I don't think you understand. I can't protect her if she can't tell me anything or scream out. I inch closer, seeing tears flowing down my brother's cheeks. I'm absolutely heartbroken. This is what I've turned my brother into. His concern is touching, but he's so afraid for me. Am I that much of a weakling that he feels this way? That he needs to protect me while I'm at school? No surgery will correct it, he whispers, and he hangs his head. I so badly want to move forward and comfort him, but I'm frantically blinking my own tears back. I was right that I was never going to speak again then. Somehow it still hurts even though I was prepared for it. Damian hangs up the phone and rests his head against the wall. I wait a minute and then make a huge noise as I walk into the kitchen, Damian springing back and hastily wiping tears from his face. Winter, he says thickly as I pretend not to notice I was just about to organize dinner. What do you want to order? He asks, and I shrug. I don't really care, it makes no difference to me. To his credit though, he tries. Pizza again, I shake my head adamantly. I've never been a real fan of it. Chinese. Another shake of my head. Guess I care after all. Indian, I nod excitedly. It's been forever since we had Indian and I loved spicy food. He gives me a small smile and then sits at the dining table, motioning for me to sit as well, looking extremely pale and biting his lip. Winter, he begins, I have to tell you something and it's not good news. I already know what he's going to tell me, but I don't interrupt, waiting for him to speak and watching as he wrestles with his conscience. Finally he clears his throat and looks away, unable to meet my eyes. The doctor called while you were still upstairs, he whispers, and I'm really sorry, but he says there's no chance of your vocal cords repairing themselves, they were too shredded in the attack. I know this, but my body slumps anyway. He reaches over and takes my hand and I let him, not used to this contact from him so often. I love him and it's killing me that he's feeling so wretched over it. Even when he beat me, with father, I loved him as a big brother. It might seem weak of me, but I'd always hoped one day he'd realize I wasn't responsible for mother's death and treat me like a little sister. Now my wish had come true and I was planning on abandoning him. God, I sucked as a person. We'll get through this, he was saying, squeezing my hand, and I nod, my eyes shiny with tears. He sucks in a breath. I swear we'll look into another opinion, maybe another doctor can fix it, he suggests, and I give him a small smile. Whatever made him feel better. No doctor is fixing this. I'm not broken, I think to myself. There were plenty of people who were mute that led perfectly happy lives. I could do the same. I don't need to be fixed. I hear my stomach growl and pat it as my brother gives a sniffle and a smile. I guess I better order that Indian, he laughs, teasing me, and my heart fills with joy to hear him laughing again instead of looking so morose. He gets on the phone and I lean back in the chair and listen, content to look out the window. One more week, I think to myself. I could hide from Damian, I think, or I could spend as much time with him as I could before I left. Even though it stings, I decide the latter. I want to get to know my big brother, but I wouldn't change my mind about leaving. I was doing what's best for both of us and getting away from Jonathan's overbearing attitude as well. I would be severing the mate bond permanently and possibly becoming a rogue, but it was my life and my choice. I need freedom, and I wasn't going to get it here. Winter POV. It's the day before my 18th birthday and it's completely slipped Damian's mind. He's been too upset and distraught over the fact I'll never speak again, to even give it a thought. Jonathan continues to slip through the corridors and follow me from class to class. If he wasn't an alpha, he'd be in detention for being so late to his own. That also reminds me, I wonder how on earth he was expelled from 2 other schools. Who would dare expel an alpha? It boggles my mind. I'm so busy staring out the window, lost in my daydreams and plotting, that I fail to notice the last school bell has rung and that everyone, almost everyone, has left. Except for me. How could I have been so stupid? The only reason Jessica and her cronies had stayed away was because of Jonathan and Damian. Everyone had noticed them following me. I gulp as I look at her and the small group of friends that have gathered in a crowd around my desk. Where was Jonathan and Damian when I actually needed them, for heaven's sake? Jessica leans over, her long blonde hair trailing over her shoulder as she pushes it back impatiently. You know you never got punished for killing Thomas, she murmurs to me. The police just let it go, but I know that you're a murderer. Thomas was our friend and because of you he's dead, she snaps, her eyes flashing black for a moment. Just like me, she's close to her 18th birthday and her wolf is dangerously close to the surface. I shake my head. Thomas deserved to die. I want to cry out, protest, after everything he'd tried to do to me. But of course I can't utter a sound as she laughs and motions towards her group. Get her, she orders, and I push back my chair and try to run, muffled screaming coming from my mouth as someone pulls at my hair, dragging me to the floor, my back hitting the hard wooden floor. They drag me to the doorway and I glance through, my heart sinking as I see the corridor is completely deserted. Your brother and Damian have been delayed for a bit, Jessica laughs and I flinch. She knew exactly what I was thinking, but what would have distracted them both from coming to my side? It had to have been something extremely important. One of the boys, whose name I strangely don't remember, grabs me and roughly begins to shove me towards the door. The girls surround me and I'm stuck, going in the direction they are motioning to. I start to panic, my chest heaving frantically, as I see where we are going. The forest where the trees will hide me from sight, and I wave my arms wildly, kicking and scratching as they pull me with them, until we are a fair distance inside. Ouch! That stung. Jessica takes great delight in kicking me to the ground, my body rolling on the hard wooden dirt, leaves and debris all over me and even tangled in my hair as I lay there, looking up at them all as they gather in a circle around me. They are all smiling and enjoying this. No compassion or empathy in them at all. We decided we would punish you for murdering Thomas, seeing as the police aren't interested. I begin to shake in fear. What was this? Clearly it was revenge and it was going to be brutal, I had no doubts about that. Another kick and I curl up into a fetal position, each of them taking turns to kick or spit on me. It's the most humiliating and degrading experience of my life and tears flow down my cheeks. Why can't I just be left alone? I'm so close to leaving all of this behind me. One more night and I would have been gone from their lives forever. Something glints in the light and my eyes, which are bleary and narrowed, focus in on a dagger being held by Jessica. She's wearing gloves and I know instinctively that means the blade at least is silver. I flinch and crawl backwards, scrapes and bruises stinging all over my body, my shirt and pants covered in dirt and even some of my blood splatter. I try to say. But this just makes them giggle. Do it already. Her brother and Jonathan will be here soon. Come on, the other boy urges, looking over his shoulder nervously. I glare at them all, the girls pushing me back down, every time I try to get to my feet. There's a wide smile on Jessica's face and it's chilling to see. I feel cold inside, numb. As though I'm not even inside my body but outside of it, watching everything going on at a distance. Hold her, she snaps, and both boys drag me upright, holding firmly to my arms as I struggle wildly, watching Jessica approach, the blade glinting in the sunlight. She stops right in front of my face and with no hesitation she drives it into my thigh, my screams muffled as the silver begins to burn my flesh. God, it hurt. It was excruciating and made worse by the fact she kept it there, instead of yanking it out straight away. I whimper. She yanks the dagger out and then looks at my ribcage, a calculating look in her eyes. She stabs me, and the only reason I'm upright now is because the boys are holding me up, otherwise I would have collapsed to the floor in pain right now. This is for Thomas, Jessica whispers furiously, as I stare at her weakly, blood dripping down my body, the dagger held securely in her palm. This is for turning Damian against me, she utters, stabbing me again, and this, she hisses, my body slumping now, the boys loosening their grip as they realize I'm barely conscious, is because Jonathan still wants you, you pathetic, she finishes with one last stab. She pulls it out, the boys leaving me to collapse on the floor, my hands pressed against my wounds. She spits on me one last time and the others follow suit. Then I hear them leaving as I gasp for breath, my breath coming in short spurts as I try to drag in oxygen. I struggle to my feet. I could go back and tell Damian what happened, or I could bring my plan forward a notch. I'm afraid they might come back, and even though I feel myself staggering and barely holding on, I start to walk even further into the forest. No one knows it, but there's a cave nearby, one that I've found and spent time in whenever I need sanctuary, and that's where I head to now. I need somewhere to hide, and the stream close by will hide my scent. All I have to do is get there, and make sure that my blood trail doesn't betray me. Sorry Damian, I think hazily to myself, I just can't take it anymore. You'll forgive me for this one day. Or at least I hope he will, as I use the trees to steady myself, forcing each step forward. Just a little more and I can rest. Just a little more. Damian POV, I know that it seems a long time away, boys, but you really do have to think about your future, the headmaster is saying in that annoying nasal voice of his. I fight the urge to roll my eyes, wanting nothing more than to poke my tongue out at him. Jonathan is sitting beside me, looking just as frustrated, but the headmaster is the one person I can't go against without being suspended or expelled. Who gives a damn about the future? I think a bit bitterly. Winters had been ruined, and it had been one of my friends who'd done it to her. I wasn't stupid. She tried to hide it from me, but I knew she was having nightmares every night. I heard her muffled gasps when she woke up. I still stayed outside her room every night, and I knew she was annoyed by it. I guess I've gone from being a disinterested older brother to an overprotective one in a short amount of time. Who would have thought it? You need to think about college and where you are going. What grades are you going to need? God, he was rambling on and on. Was he ever going to shut up? How much longer was I going to have to sit here and listen to him, for heaven's sake? Jonathan, have you chosen a college yet? No, Jonathan answers sullenly, and we share a look, one that sympathizes with the other. It's clear neither of us is particularly thrilled to be sitting in the headmaster's office. Damian, what about you? I'm not going to college. I need to get a job, I answer politely, and the headmaster seemed confused by my answer. You have to go to college. It will set you up with a bright future, he tells me sternly, and I shrug, not caring if it's rude. I also need to eat and have a roof over my head, I commented dryly. Ha, take that, I think smugly to myself. He sits back and regards me thoughtfully. What does he know? I heard your father has disappeared, he says, trying to be delicate and failing abysmally. Yep, and I intend to take care of myself and Winter, I say carelessly, and he looks a bit guilty for a moment. What was that about? How is your sister doing? I blinked back, the tears threatening to come to the surface. I don't know. Sometimes she seems to be fine and dealing with everything, and then other times not so much, I admit, hating myself for showing weakness in front of the headmaster and in particular Jonathan, who's hanging on my every word, his face serious and his eyes trained on me. Will she recover her voice? The headmaster probes, his eyes gentle and trained solely on myself. I reluctantly shake my head and see a disappointed look on Jonathan's face. I hadn't had a chance to tell him. All right, I did, but I'd held back from telling him, because I didn't feel like it was any of his business once he'd rejected her. Not that you could tell an alpha that directly without getting your head ripped off. No, I whisper, and the headmaster looks saddened by the news but also not surprised. I guess I was one of the only ones who'd hoped that she would. Maybe I'd let my imagination run away from me as a means to cope. Look, the headmaster says, looking between Jonathan and myself, if you both decide on a college, I can help you or the guidance counselor. Damian, if you or your sister need help, then we can arrange for social services if that would be easier. You just have to say the words, he adds, and I stare at him, absolutely incredulous. Did he really think I would let social services take my sister from me? Over my dead body, I think fiercely, scowling at him. Can I leave now? I say snidely, and he blinks at me, as though wondering why I'm suddenly so angry. Certainly, the headmaster says pleasantly, looking at the clock. The old man had kept us in the study for close to an hour with his driveling. I needed to get out of there. Thank you, I say, forcing myself to be polite as I stand up, grimacing and shaking his flabby hand while Jonathan does the same. We leave the study in a rush, breathing in fresh air in relief. The office had smelt damp and of cigarettes. We knew the man smoked, he absolutely reeked, but I guess when you're the head of the school you can get away with anything you want. Like I care. I know exactly where Winter's class is, but I'm not shocked to find that she's not waiting for me. I should have sent word about the meeting, but the headmaster had grabbed me on the way to her in the hallway and I hadn't been able to refuse. Jonathan gave a huff and I cast him a sidelong glance. What was his problem? She's long gone, he says, sounding disappointed. I roll my eyes. He's obsessed with Winter and it was becoming annoying. Especially with him being an alpha. Can you blame her? I snap back in response. I wouldn't have waited for a whole hour either. She's probably walked home, I mutter, and he sighs. I can't hold it in anymore, I feel like I'm going to explode, and I turn to him in a rage. Listen, you need to stop with this man. You rejected Winter. Remember, I vent, not holding back. You didn't want her and now you follow her around like a puppy. It's annoying. She's my sister and I'm the one who should be protecting her. He blinks, shocked that someone would speak to him like that. I guess no one tells you the truth when you're an alpha, but man, could he get a hint for heaven's sake? Winter wanted nothing to do with him. The mate bond didn't completely sever, he mutters, and my jaw almost drops to the ground in disbelief. How could that happen? The wheels begin to turn in my head. The only way that happens, I say slowly, the penny beginning to drop, is if you're not 100% certain you want to reject the person. I glare at him. Are you telling me that you weren't 100% sure? Because if that's the case, then you're going to feel everything on your side, whereas Winter won't feel anything except maybe a strong like for you. He looks at the ground miserably and I feel a small spurt of sympathy for him. A very small one. I know, he whispers, I ended up okay. I either need to reject her fully or choose her as my mate. This still being tied to her is slowly killing me. We both give each other an understanding glance and I watch him leave, feeling more of a kinship with the alpha, who seems to be haunted by a decision he had made. Winter POV. The cave is small, dark, and dank. It reeks of some sort of animal's piss, but it's well hidden and camouflaged. I'm fairly certain it's not bear piss at any rate, and, for all I know, the creature it belongs to has moved on. I lean against the rough, hard, rocky edges and let myself slowly slip down to a sitting position, both my legs right in front of me. I can't move, my shirt is plastered to my side where all the stabbing marks are, and I feel hot, feverish all over. It still stings even now, and I slowly peel up my shirt to have a proper look. My eyes, thankfully due to my shifter jeans, are able to see quite well in the dark. The blood has stopped dripping, thankfully, and from what I can see the wounds have started to scab over. I close my eyes in relief. If I'd had my wolf, the silver would have had an even bigger impact than it had. It's cold in the cave and I shiver slightly as I let my shirt fall back down. I'd bent down to drink from the stream and almost collapsed right there and then from the pain. My trail, however, has been hidden and I know I'm safe for a little while at least before I need to move on. I wonder what Damian's doing, whether he's even realized I'm missing yet. It's been over an hour since school finished, so he should have some sort of inkling by now. I feel a moment of regret that I'm choosing to leave him like this. I have written a note, but I was supposed to leave it in the kitchen for him tomorrow and it's safely tucked away in my little desk. Maybe he'll find it. He'd have to search my room though. Had Jonathan felt my pain? Then again, I guess he shouldn't, not with our mate bond severed. That, I guess, is a small blessing in itself. It means I have more of a chance of getting away. It begins to rain outside and I sigh. I've always loved the rain and the way it made the pine seem even stronger when you smelled it and the soothing sounds as it hit the trees and the ground. Even when there was thunder, I'd always been fascinated. I inch back further into the cave, swearing silently to myself as my body protests, all my muscles feeling like they are on fire. I might like the rain, but right now the last thing I need is to get soaked to the bone, even if I consider that it might make me feel slightly cooler. I stay there, keeping an eye out for any signs of wild creatures coming close, my ears strained for any strange noises. It seems to be clear and I relax slightly, still panting from the pain, my eyes blurred, everything hard to focus on. I feel exhausted, drained, and completely lacking energy. Who could blame me? I doubt anyone wants to run a marathon after being stabbed. Or move at all. The rain stops just like that and I crane my neck, seeing that the sun is beginning to set. That means that there's only a few hours until it gets dark, and that means it's going to get extremely cold in the cave. I shiver, wishing I had a blanket or even a damn jumper on. How was I supposed to know I was going to need it? It had been a perfectly sunny day this morning. My shirt has rips and tears through it and I sigh. It was one of my favorites too. Just my luck. I don't even dare think of heading home to get spare clothes. Damian would freak and then he'd never let me out of his damn sight again. It's best not to risk it. I huddle against the wall and bring my legs up slowly, wincing as pain reverberates through my entire body. Heat seems to flare through me and I moan, muffled, my hands and legs feeling shaky and my body trembling all over. Was it my imagination or did the cave seem to be longer? The distance to the entrance or exit seemed to be further away, but how was that possible? I closed my eyes tight, my head dropping backwards against the wall with a thud. Everything hurts. It wasn't an easy task getting to the cave, and at one point I was certain I wouldn't make it and contemplated going back for help. The sound of twigs and leaves crunching beneath footsteps makes my head whip back up, my eyes blearily looking towards the entrance. I'm in no position to run or fight off whoever is coming and I begin to shake. Please don't let it be a wolf or a bear, come to eat me. It's not the way I envision dying. Whatever it is, thankfully, he has no interest in the cave whatsoever, and my head pounding and my lips and throat dry, I quietly lean back against the wall. If I'm lucky, I'll be safe inside here for the next few days or however long it takes to heal. In fact, even if I hold on until tomorrow night, I'll be able to shift. It will be my first one as well, considering it's my 18th birthday, but my God, that was going to be useful in this situation. I can't wait to see what my wolf looks like. It's hard to picture her, but I imagine a delicate, silver or grey-looking wolf with big eyes and a cute adorable tail. I wish I could speak to her, but that only happens after your transformation, so I'll have to wait a little longer. I can be patient though, especially since it means I won't have to be alone, not so long as I have my wolf with me. The moon will be full tomorrow night and it will light up the forest. It's the perfect opportunity to go for a run and leave the territory. All I have to do is reject my pack and I'll be known as a rogue, a wolf who has no pack or home and merely travels in search of one or remains on their lonesome. Some go crazy from lack of company and others choose to go bad. I won't though. Because part of me is hoping that I'll be able to find a pack to call home, one that's vastly different to this one, where I can make a new start and a new life. One where I finally feel accepted for who I am and one where I'm a valued pack member. Does such a pack exist? Or am I dreaming? I start to feel nauseous and promptly throw up next to me, wiping my mouth in disgust, my wounds smarting with every move. I wrinkle my nose at the smell, which is disgusting by the way, and back away slightly, the cave feeling like it's spinning around me until I'm so confused I don't even know which way I'm moving. My eyes begin to close and my head throbs like you wouldn't believe. I try to hold on, but before I know it, my body has dropped completely to the ground and I welcome the darkness that obliterates me. Damian POV. I've just gotten home and it's still dark inside, none of the lights having been turned on. I swear and turn on the kitchen light and go looking for Winter. The least she could have done is light up the house, especially since I can see rain clouds gathering and it's so dark inside the house that it's difficult to see clearly. But when I go upstairs there's no sign of her. Perhaps she's in the bathroom, I think, and go and check. Then I checked each room methodically, calling out her name. There's no sign of her anywhere and I feel dread rise from the pit of my stomach. Something is wrong, I just know it. I swear. So she hadn't walked home by herself after all, like I had assumed. What had happened then? I don't know why, but I begin to search her room, in case she's left some sort of sign about where she might have gone. I don't think Jessica and her cronies would have the guts to do anything to Winter, especially against Jonathan's wishes. I also know sometimes she likes to be alone. I'm not sure where, but every so often she'd slip out and come back hours later, a small smile on her face. Like her own personal haven that only she knew about. Her own little sanctuary, away from father and me. I rifle through her desk and that's when I see the envelope, with my name written on it in neat cursive writing. My hand is shaking as I pull it out and I quickly rip the envelope open as I sit down on her bed. It's a letter addressed to me and, with my heart in my throat, I begin to read it. Dear Damian, if you are reading this, then it means I've done what I planned to do and left. It's nothing against you, but I can't bear the thought of staying in this pack any longer. I've never truly felt like I belonged here anyway. I'm afraid, every day Damian. Initially, it was because it was either you or father taking your frustrations out on me, always looking over my shoulder, wondering which of you is going to hit me next, what would I do to upset you? It became the norm when it's anything but normal. You were my family and you both treated me like garbage. Instead of the daughter and sister that I was. I know you're trying to make up for it all. You've started being the older, bigger, brother I always wanted, but it's too late. The pack hates me. I'm never safe, not even at school. The Luna and Alpha don't even know of my existence because of where we live and the students in the school love to bully me, because they saw you bullying me at school. I'm sorry for being such a coward and not telling you, but I was afraid you would try and stop me. I don't want to be stopped. I need to do this, Damian. I've wanted to leave ever since Jonathan rejected me straight away. I'm never going to find happiness while I live here, or even love. I want what mother and father had before she died. They loved each other unconditionally and they were always affectionate in front of us. If father hadn't changed, maybe we would have stayed a happy family instead of being such a dysfunctional one. I'm sorry that mother died because of me, but it wasn't my fault and honestly you blamed me anyway. Damian, even when you hit me, or punished me, I still loved you. I've never stopped loving you as my brother. But I want a life for myself. I want to live in a pack that cares about me as a person and who accepts me for who I am. Where I can be myself without having to look over my shoulder or worry about being bullied as I walk down the halls in school. Where I don't need you or Damian to keep watch over me while I attend class. I need to be free, Damian. While I stay here, it's like I'm stuck in a cage, unable to be free and unable to leave. I know that losing my voice permanently has made things harder for both of us, but I'm willing to accept that I'll be mute forever. I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed, all I needed was the love of a brother, that was all. That was what you gave me, Damian, and I'm so incredibly thankful for it. Do me a favor. Take care of yourself and don't worry about me. Don't go looking for me. I've already made up my mind and you can't drag me back. Let me do this. Let me live again. When I find a place to call home, I'll send for you. I won't forget about you. But I need to take this time and travel, be independent instead of relying on other people. I need to find myself and discover what I want for once instead of people choosing for me. I need to get away from the memory of Thomas and what happened. I can't do that here. I love you so much and I hope one day you'll forgive me for leaving you like this. But I couldn't bear to see your face if I told you. This just seemed the easier way. I'll see you again one day. Love your little sister, Winter XOXOXO. I crumpled the piece of paper in my fist. This was my fault. I'd driven my little sister away and God, it killed me inside to know it. She'd been having a hard time at school and at home because I had been so much like my father towards her. Now she'd run off to find another pack, and part of me honestly couldn't blame her. I'm actually surprised she didn't go sooner. Life had been hell for her and it was partly due to me. I debate going after her, but then I feel a sense of remorse and defeat. She'd said not to go after her, had written it implicitly, and who was I to go against her wishes? This one time, it felt like I needed to listen to what she wanted, not what I thought she should do. If she needed time to travel and to heal, that's what I should give her. It's the least she deserves and she has every right to demand it. Even if I feel cold inside. Anything could happen to her out there, but from the sounds of it she was in more danger staying. It's the most difficult choice I've ever had to make, fighting the urge to go and find her, let alone dragging her back. She needed this. I had no right to make her even more miserable than she apparently already was. I throw the piece of paper away and bury my face in my hands. I feel tears slowly trickle down my cheeks and I let them. I feel broken inside. I had just lost my baby sister who was God knows where, one afternoon, and I was partly to blame. So was Jonathan. I forgot about Jonathan. I glanced down at the discarded paper in trepidation. I was going to have to tell him about the letter, and I knew, just knew, that it was not going to go down well with the big bad alpha. Jonathan POV. I'm not going to lie, I'm fairly concerned about Winter. I mean, she could have at least waited for us to escort her home, for heaven's sake. As it is, it's the next morning and I'm impatiently waiting by the gate to see her and that blasted annoying brother Damian of hers. All right, maybe Damian's not that bad, but he is still annoying. There are other students trickling in and I ignore the looks, the curiosity on their stupid faces. I only have one person I'm interested in seeing, and that's Winter. No one else. I ignore the small voice in my head that reminds me I rejected her and have no business being this protective towards her. So, when Damian slowly comes trudging through the crowd, I'm puzzled to see he's all alone, instead of with his sister Winter. Had he left her at home? All by herself? I feel my anger rising and I shove through everyone, the others scattering out of my way. Good. Damian looks up and I swear he's been crying, his eyes are all red and puffy, there are dried tear tracks on his cheeks. It's unnerving to see a young man as tough as him in such a mess. Had something happened to Winter? I began to feel a sense of panic. No, don't let it be that, let it be something else, anything else. Surely I would have felt something through the mate bond by now? Or was the mate bond now that weak? We need to talk, Damian says in a low voice, and I grabbed his jumper and fairly dragged him into the school building and into an empty classroom, before releasing him. Talk, I snapped, crossing my arms and glowering at him. Where is your sister, Damian? Where is Winter? He hesitates and my eyes turn pitch black in warning as he gulps and looks away, too frightened to look me in the eyes. My impatience is mounting. She ran away, he finally says, and for a minute I stood there in disbelief, unable to comprehend it. He had to be joking. Winter was one of the most stubborn girls I've ever seen. She wouldn't have just left. I refuse to believe that. But a small part of me thinks that it's true. Explain, I boom as he flinches from the tone of my alpha voice. He cringes as he sits in a chair, looking defeated and more than a little miserable. She left a note, he whispered, saying that she couldn't bear to stay here any longer. I guess the bullying finally got to her, he explains, and I feel like throttling him. I knew Winter had been bullied, but I'd believed the students had stopped when I put the word out. Had my wishes been disrespected? I'd kill anyone who dared touch her. I'd make it my personal mission to make their lives a living hell. I'll kill them, I declared, but Damian shook his head at me. It doesn't matter anymore, he exclaims, waving his arms around in his distress. She's gone, Jonathan, and she's not coming back. Because of me, he hisses, and father, she left. She wants to find a pack to call home, he sniffs, because this one has only caused her suffering and misery. I'm silent for a moment. I never realized just how much Winter was going through and how much I must have made it worse by trying to reject her. All I'd cared about had been myself and what I wanted. We have to find her, I said in desperation, and Damian began to laugh. It's almost like he's hysterical. She's long gone. I won't go against her wishes, not when this is what she wants. I've already done enough to destroy her, I won't take this away from her as well, he snaps, and I glower at him. You would leave your sister out there, alone, where anything could happen, I scoffed, and he shrugged, looking down at the floor. I would leave my sister out there to discover who she is and find a pack that loves her, a place that is a sanctuary to her, rather than try and drag her back and make her miserable again, he explains, and I look away, my jaw tight. Why couldn't I have just been decent to the poor girl? I could have given her a chance before dragging her out of a classroom in front of other students and rejecting her. Of course, she would have been teased for that. Her life must have been hell, and I'd added to it without even being aware of it. I feel a pang in my heart and my wolf is heartbroken. Our mate has abandoned us, and I'm not stupid. I know there's every chance that she might come across a second chance mate in her travels if she went to various packs. That hurts, and I feel cold at the thought. You shouldn't have rejected her, Damian tells me hollowly. I think it was the last straw for her, you know. Like she wasn't worthy of being loved. I messed up big time, but you were like the final nail in the coffin. I exhale. He's not wrong. If she was already fed up with everything, then I'd clearly made her want to run away. I feel a sense of remorse and regret my actions, even if it's too little, too late. My wolf blocks me, and I have to say that stings too. We're normally the best of friends, but not lately. I stuffed up, but there's nothing I can do to change it now, I say, just as miserable. For what it's worth, Damian, I am sorry, I offer, and the boy merely stares at me. What are you going to do now? You still have the mate bond, but it's not going to do you any good now that she's gone, Damian points out, and I wince at his directness. This blasted mate bond. I am considering my options. I could go search for my mate and find her, or I could do the right thing and let her go completely. My heart wants to find her, drag her back kicking and screaming, but that would just be torture for her. I took a deep breath. Damian looks at me expectantly, my wolf sends me vibes of utter hatred. But this needs to be done. Winter deserves to be happy, she deserves to find someone who can give her all of their heart rather than a small part of it. She deserves to be cherished and adored, and she deserves to feel safe. I'm not that person. I'm too indecisive, and I constantly struggle with the idea of accepting her mate. Hopefully her other one, should she find it, will accept her without question. I took a deep breath. This is going to hurt far worse than anything I've ever faced. I, Jonathan of the Blue Moon Pack, fully reject Winter from the Silver Crescent Pack as my mate, now and forever, I finished in a whisper. This time the pain is so bad, my legs buckle and Damian rushes to catch me. My entire chest is on fire and my heart is beating rapidly. Then, just as quickly, it fades away, and I know this time, the mate bond is gone completely, that there's no small sliver left behind. It's done, I tell him regretfully. I got rid of it for real this time. Damian looks slightly upset but gives a nod. It's for the best, he says, and I agree, even if my heart continues to hurt at the loss of a mate. Be free, Winter, and good luck finding another mate. I think to myself as the bell rings and I make my way to the classroom. I hope you find whatever it is you're searching for. Winter POV. I don't know what it is that finally woke me, whether it's the throbbing headache I have or the strange burning sensation that's all over my body. It's intense, and I swear it's getting worse as the seconds pass by. I slowly got up, putting a hand to my head, and I glanced down to see that all of my stab wounds were fully healed. There's no pain whatsoever as I move, and I stagger to the entrance of my little cave, peering outside and promptly swearing. How long have I been out for? Too long, I'm guessing. The last thing I remember is it being past sunset and then nothing. But I suspect it's been more than a few hours since I passed out, not just because of my dry, parched throat or growling stomach, but because it's a full moon outside. It's been more than a goddamn day, and it's now my 18th birthday. My legs buckle as the heat gets to excruciating levels, my body prone on the ground. I'm helpless to stop the pain, tears welling in my eyes as I pray for it to stop, feeling like I might be dying. It's that bad. No, I'm not being melodramatic. I scream as my left leg suddenly moves and breaks. It looks like I'm about to go through my first shift, and all alone at that. I can't risk any wild animals hearing my screams in case it alerts them to my presence, so I whimper as my bones all begin to crack and break, adjusting themselves. It's the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life, and it seems like a lifetime. I'm panting heavily, not sure I'm going to make it without passing back out, when suddenly the heat begins to subside and my bones stop moving. Is it over? I move everything experimentally and then, slowly, get to my feet, looking down to see I have paws. Well, tiny paws anyway. Hello Winter, I'm your wolf Sabriel. I've never been so excited about hearing another voice. I like the name Sabriel, it's beautiful, I tell her, and she gives a little laugh, sounding pleased. She seemed to like the compliment. Winter is just as beautiful for a beautiful girl such as yourself. Sabriel, I really want to see what we look like. Is it safe to go to the stream? We can look at our reflection. Everything is scarily in focus and I can see so far in the distance it's like having my own personal binoculars attached to my face. I can smell so many different scents it's hard to tell what's coming from what, almost like I have to unravel each one to determine it. It's safe to go to the stream. There are only small animals around and there are no humans or other shifters. We won't be in any danger. It feels surreal walking on my paws and I'm tentative, my paws sinking into the hard dirt earth as I make my way towards the little stream nearby. Once I'm there, I peer into the water and see our reflection. I inhaled in shock. "We're beautiful, Sabriel," I enthuse, looking at every single detail in awe. "Our fur is silver but it shimmers and glistens, something I haven't seen before in other wolves. I'm silver all over except for my paws, which are white and just as shiny." Sabriel fairly preens at my compliments. There's only one thing that concerns me and I'm hesitant to bring it up to Sabriel, but I have to know. We're smaller than most wolves. In fact, the only way to describe it is that we're a runt. There's no other polite way to say it. I hadn't been expecting that and I wonder why I'm so small. Is it because I'm so malnourished or have something to do with all the abuse I've had to put up with over the years? "Sabriel, why are we so small? I thought we would at least be as big as the average wolf," I asked, and I sensed sadness emanating from her. "I'm a representation of you, Winter. At the moment, we're small because that's how you feel. Once you've accepted yourself for who you are and believe in what you are capable of, you will grow. Being a runt doesn't make us any less powerful," she adds, and I give a small nod, although I'm disappointed. It was my fault we were so little and I can't help but feel slightly down about it. "Winter, stop stressing about it. We are perfect no matter what. I know it's just that. Stop comparing us to other wolves. We are unique, beautiful, and a hell of a lot smarter than most," she tells me, and I snort, unable to help myself. My wolf is sassy and has an outgoing personality, as opposed to my introverted one. Now how about we get this gorgeous body of ours moving and go for a run? You'll get tired after that, so I suggest spending one more night in the cave before we set off in search of a pack. What do you say? Hell yes, I want to go for a run. I can't think of anything better. I start to run, my paws avoiding broken twigs and leaves, leaping over branches. The trees passed by in a blur and I let out a small howl, giving in to my wolf instincts. I smell a deer nearby and followed it, tackling it to the ground. This is where it gets a bit gross and I start to eat it raw in my wolf form, my stomach so hungry that I've eaten a fair bit before I realize what I've done. My animal instincts had completely taken over and, without consciously trying, I let Sabriel take the driver's seat. You did well, she compliments me and I grin and settle back to watch as she dashes through the trees towards the cave, stopping every so often to sniff and track a scent. I'm not in a hurry to get back, this is too much fun, but eventually, we end up back at the beginning of our run and Sabriel reluctantly lets me have control again. This time I have no idea what to do. Picture yourself as a human. From your hair color, to your eyes, all the way down to your toes, Winter. Picture it clearly in your mind. Everything that makes you unique. I form a picture in my mind, imagining myself and hear my bones cracking and shifting. This time it's merely uncomfortable, thank goodness, instead of painful, and in no time I'm in my human form and standing there. I shivered and looked down with a groan. I'd shredded my clothes when I shifted. I should have thought about that. Sabriel sounds calm. You won't feel the cold so much now that you have a wolf. Go to sleep. When you wake up tomorrow, we'll go for a quick run and steal some clothes from someone's washing line or something. We'll work it out. That sounded like a plan. I feel myself yawning even though I've spent a day unconscious and head towards the back of a cave. It's going to be uncomfortable, but right now my body needs to recover while I sleep. I closed my eyes. Good night, Sabriel. Good night, Winter. Winter POV. I'm running in wolf form, as fast as my little legs can carry me, grateful for the speed that I possess. The trees pass by in a blur and I easily jump over broken twigs and branches. I have to keep going, I can't afford to stop. Not now. Keep running, Winter, Sabriel tells me urgently, and I continue to do so, my nose picking up a horrid scent of rotten eggs and meat, wrinkling my nose in disgust. The scent is overwhelmingly familiar and I begin to feel slightly panicked as I start to run even faster. How close is the rogue? He's gaining on us fast, Winter. I don't think we're going to outrun it. We're going to have to turn and fight. But I haven't practiced much, Sabriel, I don't know if we can take them. I don't know how to fight. We have no choice, Winter, now turn around before he tackles you. I turned and jumped neatly to the side in time to avoid the rogue which had jumped to tackle me from behind. I stare. It's thin, mangy looking and malnourished, as though it's been a long time since they last ate. Its eyes are a crimson blood color and it's a dark grey color, much like a normal wolf. It's drooling as it snarls at me and I flinch, staring into its eyes, my whole body tensed as I wait for the inevitable attack. I feel slightly sorry for it, which annoys Sabriel. Jump. Attack first, Winter. I jump, landing on it and surprising it for a moment as I rake my claws against their back. They howl and then I feel them nipping at me as I fall off and roll over. It leaps at me and I howl as I feel its jaws clench down on my leg, effectively breaking it. I know they're trying to make me helpless and I get to all fours, whimpering slightly as I'm forced to keep one off the ground. I'm a goner. There's no way I can take them out now. But Sabriel refuses to let me give up, urging me to continue to fight. Fight through the pain. I'm not dying today and neither are you. Run and tackle it into the tree. I almost scream at the pain as I do what she says, but the rogue isn't expecting me to attack and I easily thrust it back into the tree, snapping and biting at it in desperation. It bites back and we roll over and over, both of us scratching and clawing at each other. Without knowing it, I rip through his stomach and dig my claws in as hard as I can as I drag them through, rolling over and away as they lie there, not moving. I can see their chest heaving up and down and know they aren't dead yet. Finish it, Winter, we can't afford for them to keep tracking us, Sabriel tells me, and I hesitate. I can't bear to think of taking another life, even a rogue's. After all, once upon a time, they used to be a shifter like me. How could I blame them for doing what their nature demanded of them? It wasn't fair or very sportsmanlike. Plus, I hate the idea of killing something that is so defenseless right now. They clearly aren't going anywhere. That compassion is going to get you killed, Sabriel grumbled at me. I pushed her aside and concentrated on the rogue who was staring at me, not moving. It's in a great deal of pain and, from the looks of it, it would live but take hours to heal. Hours I could use to get away. I can't kill them, Sabriel, rogue or not, I can't. They are in no condition to continue fighting. Let's just leave them alone and get away. They'll kill someone else. Why are their lives forfeit just because they are rogues? Everyone deserves a chance to live. I refuse to end another's life when I can avoid it. Fine. Do what you want, Winter, but don't say I didn't warn you. I shifted and limping, biting my lip against the pain of my leg, searching for the small backpack I flung into the trees earlier before turning around. Another item I've stolen from an unsuspecting household. I open it and grab what I'm looking for, a shirt that I tear into long strips as the rogue watches me, clearly confused. I approach it slowly, hands open, uncaring that I'm vulnerable. There's such sadness in its eyes that it tugs at my heart. It doesn't seem like an ordinary run-of-the-mill rogue, at least not like I'd imagined them to be. I try holding my arms out as it gives me a low growl, its head staring at me as I show them the makeshift bandages I've created out of the shirt. Just let me help you, I think to myself, praying they will, and it seems to eye me for a moment and then lowers its head as I place one against the wound, wiping up what blood I can. It whimpers but doesn't try and do anything. I start to wrap up the wound, being as quick and as gentle as I can. Then I gave the wolf a gentle pat and stood up, moving back into its eyeline. Every step is excruciating and I know I'm going to have to take care of myself shortly as well, but a broken leg heals incredibly, staring directly into its startled eyes. I also grab some food that I have stolen and place it next to them. They give it a wary sniff. I hope they eat the food, they look hungry, and then grab some clothes for myself and hastily get dressed, keeping an eye on the wolf the whole time. It would make sense for me to shift, but with a broken leg I want to walk normally for a bit and reserve my strength. I grab a large branch to use as a walking stick, cursing vehemently in my mind with each step as the wolf whines slightly behind me. I swear Sabriel rolled her eyes. See what you've started. Now the rogue is acting like a big baby and it's your fault for caring for it like a pet. Leave it alone, Sabriel, what's done is done. Let's just focus on getting out of here and you can continue to yell at me later, I tell her tiredly. She goes quiet as though realizing how fed up I sound. I wince as I begin to limp, the backpack securely on my back, pain shooting up my leg with every step. I glance over at my shoulder and see the rogue digging into the food and give a small smile. Perhaps I had treated it like a pet, but I've never been able to see an animal in pain and not help. Besides, who knew, maybe they would be grateful for me saving it and leave me alone. It can't hurt to be optimistic, right? But I can't help remembering its eyes and frown. Now that I think about it, they also seemed quite tall, not just for a rogue but for a shifter in general. I shrug it off but still feel uneasy. Never mind, right now, my main focus needs to be putting as much distance away from the rogue and myself before it starts to move again. Winter POV. It's been a few weeks now and both Sabriel and I are growing weary of being outdoors all the time and continually looking over our shoulders. Not to mention avoiding packs and traveling solo. Please, let's go to the next territory, even if it's just to eat and rest. I'm tired of sleeping outdoors. You're a wolf, Sabriel. All wolves do is sleep outside, for heaven's sake. Just because I'm a wolf doesn't mean I can't appreciate a soft mattress once in a while. You're so spoiled. I'm a princess, Winter, and princesses deserve to be pampered. I'll think about it. The more I think about it, the more tempting it becomes. The pack's not that far and to be honest, it would be nice to eat something different for a change instead of hunting my food down. Then I feel Sabriel in the back of my mind, tentatively sniffing. My blood runs cold. I can smell the scent of rotten meat and eggs, and there's only one thing that I can think of that makes that kind of smell. Rogues, several of them approaching. That's worse than just one lonely rogue. I warned you, you should have killed that rogue back there. Leave it alone, Sabriel, besides there's more than one coming towards us. It's a whole group, Winter. We stand no chance against them. Not with so many. I guess we're going to the nearby pack after all then, we have no choice. Well I kind of want to live, you know. It's not like I have a death wish. I can hear the crashing sounds behind me. Thank God, I'm already in wolf form, because several rogues step out from behind me and circle me, snarling, their red eyes glowing brightly in the sunlight. I gulp. There's at least half a dozen of them, and they all look mangy and thin, as though they are starving. Their jaws are pulled back and they're frothing at the mouth. One leaps at me and I roll, neatly avoiding them, taking advantage of the small opening to run. I feel canines piercing my back leg and let out a howl at the pain, shaking them off as I continue to run. I'm small and agile, but they are easily able to keep up with me, and it's going to be a battle to get to the pack in one piece. Duck, I duck, and a rogue goes flying overhead. It turns and I stop in my tracks as it lets out a ferocious growl, snapping its jaws. Great! The others behind me are catching up. He tackles me to the ground and we roll over and over, scratching, clawing and biting me in a desperate attempt to get free. God, the pain is excruciating, and I finally threw him off me. Sabriel is impressed despite herself. The pack is really close, girl. You need to go before we become dinner for these morons. What do you think I'm trying to do, Sabriel? Well, to be fair, you're not doing a very good job of it. I'm doing the best I can. Are you, Winter? Are you really? Damn you, Sabriel! I cursed at her in my mind and pounced. The rogue's not expecting it and I'm able to jump over him, or maybe it's her. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm not about to look at their private parts to find out, running as though I depends on it. Which it does. I can sense the pack's territory coming up and I run even faster, pumping my little legs for all they are worth. I jump, several wolves from that side growling, launching themselves at the rogue's end, thankfully, leaving my sorry behind. I watch wide-eyed as the fight turns into chaos, wolves everywhere, springing and jumping, clawing and biting. It's a bloodbath. I feel sorry for the rogues. In the end, they were still shifters, just ones without homes and extremely hungry. Winter, you really need to stop being so damn nice. I'm not ashamed of being kind, Sabriel. Well, I'm just saying it wouldn't hurt to be nasty once in a while, you know, maybe be a little bloodthirsty. Sabriel, I'm not that kind of person. I can't be. I could be that kind of wolf if you'd let me. No. I'm not going to say it again. You're no fun. Sabriel begins to sulk in the background while I roll my eyes. This wolf is so damn irritating at times, but she's also my best friend. I can't stay mad at her. I watch as the rogues get taken one by one, keeping myself way back from the fighting. I feel like a coward, but I'd only get injured in the chaos. As it is, I can still feel pain in my back leg where a rogue has bitten me. It finally ends, blood everywhere and dead rogues scattered along the ground. One of the shifters shifts back into their human form and I eye them warily. Something tells me this isn't going to be a warm welcome, but I can't really blame them. I'm the one who's brought rogues to their front doors, literally. I'd be pissed too. Still, I couldn't help looking at the man. He makes me blush. Can wolves blush? I'm not sure. He's got the most stunning blonde hair and piercing blue eyes and he's muscled all over. Not to mention well-endowed winter. I really didn't need to know that Sabriel. He looks angry. I tense, preparing myself. He's clearly a warrior that was on patrol when I crashed into their territory. I remind myself, he's just doing his job. Shift, he snaps irritably and I do so, picking myself up off the ground and trying very hard not to remember that I'm the same as him. Who am I kidding? Of course I'm aware of it. What are you doing on our territory? Are you a rogue as well? He demands and Sabriel snorts in my mind. She finds that question hilarious. I shake my head. I try to convey that I can't actually speak, but I don't know if he's realized it yet. It was so hard when you couldn't actually speak what you needed to say. He looks thoughtful. Maybe he'll be merciful towards me? The other wolves mill about, some going off and I presume it's to make sure there aren't any more rogues approaching or hiding from them. Why are you traveling alone? He demands and I sighed. Clearly, he still hasn't realized that I can't talk. Even Sabriel's feeling frustrated now. I wave my arms around and he just glowers, crossing his arms over his chest and waiting for a response that I can't give him. I start to huff and then grab a stick as he tenses. There's soft dirt nearby and I walked over, digging the branch into it and carefully writing the words "can't speak." He stomps over and reads, frowning. You can't speak, he mutters. Are you mute? I nod. He sighs. Great, just great. So you can't answer any of my questions? Not unless I get a pad and paper. He looks annoyed. Like it's my fault I can't talk. Come on. Does he think I'm putting it on? I fight the urge to poke my tongue out at him. Another shifter comes out in human form. There are no signs of any more rogues, sir. We've conducted a thorough search and combed through the woods. Well, that's a relief, the man says, gesturing towards me. I don't think this little girl is a threat, but we have to treat her like we treat all suspicious shifters on our territory. The other shifter glances at me, a surprised expression on his face. I'm wondering what the man means by suspicious shifter. I'm hardly a threat. Was traveling alone enough to make me suspicious? Are you sure? The other man says tentatively. I mean, she's just a young girl. I don't think it's really. He trails off and bites his lip, looking sheepishly at me. I'm afraid Alpha Chi would not be pleased if we just allowed her to wander around freely, the man says. He's left clear instructions on what we are to do in this situation, and I for one am not going to disobey him. I'd rather keep my head attached to my body, he adds grimly. The other shifter looks apologetically at me. I guess he doesn't like to follow orders, or he feels sorry for me. I feel sorry for me. The man runs a hand through his hair and looks exasperated. First off, get her some clothes while we wait. I'm grateful for that at least. I've never been one to enjoy showing off my body. In fact, I'm also shivering in the breeze. Clothes would be very welcome. The other shifter runs off and comes back minutes later with a long shirt, handing it to me. I quickly put it on, pleased that it ran down to my knees like a dress. It's extremely comfortable. She can't speak, the man says, and the other shifter looks uncomfortable now. You know what to do, but just be gentle. I can't see her running off, can you? The shifter shakes his head and steps towards me, looking remorseful. I'm afraid, I have to take you to the dungeon, he says quietly, and took hold of my arm. His grip is gentle though instead of rough. I don't blame him for having to follow orders, and I'm not about to try and do something stupid like run. He walks me through the pack grounds as other pack members stare at me curiously, and over to a lone building. He lets go of me and opens the door, gesturing to me to walk inside. The inside of the building smells of dampness and mildew. Several cells stand against the sides, a basic cot and toilet in each of them. They're not the most pleasant looking things, and I can also smell the scent of old blood surrounding me. Clearly, the dungeon is used a fair bit. The shifter opens the nearest cell and glances at me, looking extremely apologetic. I'm really sorry, but I can't go against Alpha Kai's orders, he muttered, and I nodded, walking slowly inside. I'm trying not to cry. I hate small spaces, but I hate what feels like a cage more. Especially since my father enjoyed putting me in one and torturing me. I can see torture implements on a trolley nearby and my stomach churns. It would do no good to torture me for information when I can't actually give it. The shifter follows my glance. Oh God, no, that won't be used on you, he says, shocked, and promptly wheels the trolley out of sight. The Alpha will be informed of your situation, he says firmly, and he'll decide what to do with you. In the meantime, I'll organize food and drink to be brought to you. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in a long time. I'm grateful. Sabriel's extremely grateful. She gets sick of hunting animals all the time. Plus, she loves human food. He goes to leave, giving me one last regretful look, before the door slams closed and I'm left in near darkness with nothing but myself for company. I gingerly sat down on the cold concrete floor. There's nothing I can do but wait and see if the Alpha sees fit to free me. In the meantime, it looked like it was best to get comfortable. I have no way of knowing just how long I'm going to be locked up for. I really hope it's not too long though. Something tells me that would be a very bad sign. I'm also thinking that this Alpha Kai is not the warmest of alphas, judging by the way the guards spoke about him. Kai POV, it's midday and I'm sitting at my desk, frowning as I look over at my warrior's pathetic training. My hand unconsciously touches the scars I have on my face, dark gashes from being attacked by a rogue when I was just a little boy, who didn't have his wolf. A knock on the door had me swivel my head around. I'm anything but pleased by the interruption. Come in, I said gruffly, thinking it might be my beta Langdon, but it's not. It's Candace. I should have known, she absolutely reeks of perfume. She sashays in, a smile on that perfect face of hers. The dress she's wearing leaves nothing to the imagination, just the way I like it. Her raven black hair is loose over her shoulders and her green eyes are narrowed in determination. She's been my girlfriend for several months. I know what you're thinking, most wolves wait for their mates, but I'm 25 years old and I haven't met one yet, or at least one that's willing to accept me. Flashback: I can smell the delicious scent of strawberries wafting towards me as I walk on pack grounds. I've just gotten my wolf and it's going crazy inside of my mind. I feel an irresistible pull, a drive to find out who the scent belongs to. I sniffed the air and began the hunt, finally ending up by an old oak tree, a girl sitting underneath it. She's so beautiful that I observed her for a moment. I knew the girl. She was in some of my classes at school. A quiet type, with the most beautiful blonde hair and big blue eyes. She was such a dainty little thing, engrossed in her book when I approached. She doesn't even register I'm there. The closer I get, the more disturbed the girl, Elena, looks, her eyes finally meeting mine as she whispers mate out loud. My wolf and I are ecstatic, joyous. Ready to celebrate. I'd never imagined I would find my mate so quickly. She stands up and tucks her hair behind her ear and she looks serious, grim, rather than happy like I am. Something is very wrong. My wolf can sense it as well. I reach out to touch her hand and she flinches as I frown. I was definitely feeling the mate bond, wasn't I? Then why was she so unaffected? Instead, it's like she's avoiding my eyes. What's wrong? I asked quietly. She knows that I'm going to be taking over as alpha soon, but that doesn't seem to impress her at all. Instead, she just bites her lip and turns pale. We're mates, I burst out. Isn't that something to celebrate? The moon goddess chose us to be together. I don't want you, she whispers, and I still, feeling myself go cold inside. Surely she hadn't just said that. I had to be imagining things. What do you mean you don't want me? I managed to utter, my heart feeling like it's been ripped to shreds. She trembles at the look on my face. Elena looks down at the ground, and I feel nothing but anger. Why can't she just look me in the face? Was I that repulsive to her? I'm sorry, she says, but I can't bear to even look at your face. I can't accept someone that looks like you do as my mate, even if you are going to be alpha. That's it, my heart breaks in two. So my looks were more important to her than what was on the inside. I never knew she could be that shallow. My scars cover half my face, but until then I hadn't thought of them as hideous or repulsive, but now I can't forget about them. Then I guess there's nothing to do but reject me, I whispered thickly, looking away. So much for finding my soul mate. I feel bitter and angry at the moon goddess for choosing Elena as my mate. It was a cruel joke that devoured my soul. Elena took a deep breath. I, Elena of the Midnight Sky Pack, reject you, Kai, as my mate, now and forevermore. God, that hurts, like an arrow right through the heart. I, Kai of the Midnight Sky Pack, reject you, Elena, as my mate now and forevermore. I managed to gasp out, feeling something stretch and snap between us. No doubt it's the mate bond being broken. Elena looked relieved. I'm sorry, she whispers and picks her book up and walks away, without a backward glance. I watched her go, my hands clenched into fists. I vow to never ever keep a mate if I get a second chance. I won't be rejected ever again. I won't let myself be vulnerable ever again. Candace interrupts my thoughts, leaning over my desk and showing me a rather extensive view of her cleavage in the low-cut dress she's wearing. My member twitches, even though my wolf is not pleased by my sleeping with Candace. He, unlike me, still holds out for a mate. "Can I do anything to help you?" she says to me saucily, and I raise an eyebrow, mulling over her request. "I can think of a dozen things she can help me with." "Well now," I say slowly, standing upright and grabbing her while she squeals with laughter. I give her a quick peck on the lips. I don't do long kisses or romance. Candace knows the drill and begins to unzip my pants as I stand there, licking her lips as I shudder, thinking about her tongue and her mouth around me. A knock on the door interrupts what was clearly going to be a damn good time, and I swear as I hastily zip up my pants. This had better be important or I'm going to kill whoever is on the other side of the door. Candace looks pissed and sits down, opposite my desk sulkily. She doesn't like to be interrupted either. "May I come in, Alpha?" asks my beta Langdon, clearly aware of Candace's presence in my study. He knows better than to just waltz in, thank God. "Come in," I say with a sigh and roll of my eyes. This day just kept getting better and better. Langdon comes in and raises his eyebrows at the sight of Candace. I know that he can't stand her, barely tolerates her at the best of times. But he keeps his mouth shut because she's my girlfriend and because I refuse to listen to any of his arguments. "I'm sorry to interrupt," he says warily as Candace glares at him. "But there was a security breach on the grounds today. I thought you should know," he adds, and I drum my fingers on my desk. A security breach could be anything. "What kind of breach, Langdon?" I ask, mildly curious. He fidgets slightly. That's weird for him. In fact, he looks downright uncomfortable. "A bunch of rogues were chasing a shifter, Alpha Chi." That was interesting but hardly concerning. "What happened to the rogues?" I ask. "They were killed by patrol and their bodies have been dealt with. The shifter was traveling alone and came across the group. They were wise enough to get on pack grounds for help." "A lone traveler," I say, frowning slightly. "Most shifters were smart enough to travel in groups, because of this exact situation." "What?" Candace mutters and Langdon scowls at her. "Yes, traveling alone. They've been put in the dungeon for safekeeping for now." "I wonder when you would like to visit the prisoner," he asks. "I don't think they pose a threat to our pack." I almost scoff at the idea of one shifter posing a threat to my pack. It's completely laughable. Still, they've followed my orders and placed them in the dungeon. It wasn't that concerning for me. I'd go down and have a look at them, when I chose. For now they could cool their heels. "Is that all, Langdon?" I say impatiently, and he sighs. "That's all, Alpha Chi," he says pointedly, still looking angrily at Candace. "You can go then," I say dismissively. He leaves without another word and almost slams the door to my office closed. I'd have to talk to him about not doing that. I can't fix the door. Candace stands back up and shimmies out of her dress, as a broad grin stretches on my face. She's so gorgeous and she's all mine. The sound filling the empty room and exciting me even more. God, she's tight. I push all the way in and pant, struggling to keep my control, my hand gripping her hair as she rocks back against me, urging me to move. "Stay still," I growl, and she stills, before I start to furiously thrust back and forth, hard, rough, just the way she likes it, her gasps and moans music to my ears. But as I pound away, seeking my satisfaction, my thoughts go back to the prisoner, and I'm left to wonder just why I'm so intrigued by them and why my wolf wants to seek them out so badly. Kai POV I finish banging Candace and order her to leave. When she's gone, I sit in my chair and twiddle my thumbs. My mind keeps flashing back to the fact there is a prisoner in the dungeon. While part of me is more than happy for them to cool their heels and wait for me to go down there, another part of me is almost desperate to see this prisoner, my wolf especially. Does he know something that I don't? Please go down to the dungeon. For heaven's sake, stop procrastinating. It's just a pathetic shifter, Storm, why bother? We can leave them for a few days. They're nothing special. Plus, they are traveling alone. They can take the time to think about their stupidity. But something is telling me it's important. Always trust your gut. Will you leave me alone for Christ's sake? You are imagining things. Not until you go down there. Fine, you annoying mutt, I'll go down there. Happy now? I swear. Yes, very. Storm, I think to myself rather crossly. I stomp out of the room and ignore the startled pack members who watch my every move. I imagine some of the women are turning away in disgust over the horrible scars that are prominent on my face. I don't blame them, even I know how hideous I look. After all, I'm definitely no Prince Charming and that suits me just fine. I stomped outside and over to the dungeon doors. Storm is excited for some inexplicable reason and it's annoying. The door opens with a loud creak and I make a mental note to fix that. It looks just like I remember it as I progress down the stairs. The same smell of dampness and mildew, not to mention the metallic scent of blood. It's dark, the only light coming from barred windows. It's not the most welcoming place, but it's not designed to be. It's designed for torture and imprisonment. I sniff. There's a curious smell wafting towards me, like strawberries and cream. My stomach gets butterflies to my astonishment. Is it some sort of strange perfume? I frown. I've just realized that I never bothered to ask Langdon if the prisoner was a male or female. That was a stupid oversight. I walk towards the cells, Storm howling in my head as I tell him to shut up. My gaze falls onto the small girl inside and my heart skips a beat. This had to be a mistake or a cruel prank of some kind, anything but what it is. No, dear God, this isn't happening. Not again. I have a girlfriend, who I might not exactly love to pieces, but that I really liked having around. This had to be a mistake. I walked closer, my eyes narrowed as I looked at the girl. She's small, delicate-looking, bruises covering her arms and face. I feel a spurt of anger at the thought that one of my men might have caused it. If they had, I'd kill them. She's slightly dirty and when she turns towards me, our eyes meet and I'm absolutely speechless, staring at the most beautiful girl in the whole world as the mate bond comes to life. Mate, I whisper quietly and she nods. But she doesn't speak to my shock. What's up with that? I need to know her name, my whole body craves to speak it out loud. What's your name? I demand and she just waves her hands around. You can't just ignore an alpha when they ask you a question. Was she doing this intentionally? I took a deep breath and thundered, "What's your name?" in the alpha tone, commanding her to tell me. She points at her throat, mouth opening and closing with no sounds. She can't talk to you, moron. Way to go. You're scaring her. You know that we can't accept her as our mate, Storm, so don't bother even thinking about it. Why? She's a damn sight lovelier than Candace and I won't let you reject her. You can't stop me, Storm. I can refuse to let you shift and trust me. You reject this poor girl and that's exactly what I'll do. Fine, then I guess I'll make her life a living hell. Do what you have to do, but I'm not rejecting her. She's ours and you'll see that for yourself one day, if you stop being such a stubborn jackass. You really can be sometimes, you know. I sigh and fold my arms. The girl is still eyeing me, as though frightened, and I feel a small pang of guilt. I hadn't meant to frighten her. If I'd known beforehand that she was mute, I wouldn't have used my alpha tone on her. But I don't know what to do with her. Because in spite of Storm's threats, I don't want to reject her. Besides, how would that work, when she can't form the words to accept the rejection? I don't think her writing down the words will be enough. She's not like Elena. Give her a chance. I hear Storm's words but refuse to believe them. After all, before Candace came along, no one had been interested in dating me, even as one of the strongest packs and alpha in the country. I might be known for being strong, but my looks had put off every female that had come across my path. Females were all the same, this one wouldn't be any different. I open the cage door and she slowly shuffles through, her eyes gazing up at me with what looks like adoration. She's about to get a shock but I can't see what else I can do. I can't have her near me, the will only get stronger and I don't want her anywhere near Candace. The last thing I need is that. God knows how Candace would react. She doesn't need to know, I decide, feeling a tad guilty. After all, it's not like I'm about to do anything wrong. Candace would be fine. Follow me, I ordered, and went upstairs, glancing back over my shoulder. She's tight-lipped and pale but follows me nonetheless to my satisfaction. At least she can follow orders. That's useful. In fact, that gives me a great idea. I almost shoved her into my office and closed the door. For some strange reason, she cowers in the chair. Is she afraid that I'll hit her? I've never hit a woman in my life. I feel a bit dismayed. I sat down opposite her and regarded her quietly. She's avoiding my eyes and looking around the room with interest. She's so childlike, innocent, and it's hard not to watch her. It was hard to keep myself from touching her. Listen, I say, grabbing a piece of paper and pen. How about we start with your name first? She quickly scribbles down something and I glance down to see Winter. Winter's your name? I check and she nodded. It's a cute name and it really seems to suit her well. I shake my head and clear my throat. Winter, I want you to understand something, I say sternly, and finally, she meets my eyes. I don't want a mate, not now and not in the future. I'm perfectly happy with the life I have and I'm not about to ruin it. She gives a nod and I swear I see tears in the corner of her eyes, even though she blinks them back. I feel right now. I have a girlfriend and I just can't have you near her. So what I'm going to do is make you an Omega, I say, and she stiffens. I know this must seem like an insult to her, but I couldn't reject her with Storm threatening to keep me from shifting. A tiny, tiny part of me wants to keep her hanging around. Selfish, but I'm an alpha and I can do whatever I want. Besides, this way, she'll be able to earn a living and I can keep an eye on her at the same time. For all I know, she could be a spy from another pack. I watched her nod, looking miserable. I hardened my heart before I softened towards her. I'm about to mind link the head Omega, I tell her, leaning back in the chair. God, she smells so good. The sooner I get her out of here, the better. The head Omega comes bustling in. Alpha Chi, she greets me cordially. What can I do for you? I gesture towards Winter, who's sitting there and listening. I have a new Omega to help you with your duties. Please show her to a room, Maria, I say with a sigh as she nods and begins to gesture for Winter to follow her. Wait, I say suddenly, and Maria looks at me confused. Winter is mute, she can't speak, I explain. Please let the other Omegas know as well so there is no misunderstandings, I say grimly, and watch as Maria drags Winter off. Winter glances over her shoulder one last time with a pleading look and I force myself to stare back at her, watching her face fall as she leaves. This is a complication I definitely don't need. Maybe, in time, I think a little hopefully, Storm will see the futility of having Winter here and agree to reject her. But something tells me that my wolf won't be so easy to dissuade and that the longer she's here, the harder I'm going to find fighting the mate bond. I dread having to tell Candace about her. Would it be so bad if I kept Winter a secret? Candace doesn't really need to know. At least not yet. I walked outside. I need to do some training and work out my frustration. Some sparring should do the trick. In fact, I think I'll go find Langdon, he has some serious explaining to do, and what better way to get it out of him than to fight him in the training ring. Winter POV, it's hard not to be hurt by that yet again. Another mate doesn't want anything to do with me. Was it me? Did I have some sort of personality flaw that screamed reject me? The man is called Alpha Chi and he's one of the most intimidating men I've ever seen in my life. I try not to dwell on the fact he's pretty much left me in limbo, not accepting me but also not rejecting me as a mate. Why not just get it over and done with though? Did he have plans to use me in some way? Like a mistress? Muscles all over and a six-pack chest. He's got light stubble on his chin and his eyes are a dark brown, almost black color. He's got scars on his face and I assume it's from claws, maybe from a rogue? It doesn't bother me one bit, but I did notice that he constantly touched them as he talked. Is he self-conscious about them? Because to be honest, I liked them. But then, the second I lay eyes on him, I liked all of him. Guess it was the mate bond. Can't exactly say I'm thrilled with him at the moment. Neither is Sabriel. In fact, she would like nothing more than to rip him to shreds for what he's done. Being an Omega is hard work. But I suppose it's not as difficult as being a slave to one's father and brother. Maria seems nice, chattering away as she shows me to a small room. I blink in the darkness as she turns the light on and want to cry. The room is bare except for an old mattress on the floor and a chipped dresser. Not that I have any clothes to put in it, mind you. Maria seemed to follow my gaze, understanding exactly what it is I'm thinking. I'll organize some basic clothes for you, dear. We don't wear uniforms here, but I'm sure I can rustle up some old clothes from other Omegas, she says, and I give a nod, feeling shy. But beggars can't be choosers. I'm not exactly into fashion either. Now then, she says briskly, with a bit of a wrinkled nose. I guess maybe I don't smell the best, but to be fair, I've been in the dungeon. I think a shower might be in order first. She leads me down to a bathroom down the hall. I open the door and look at my reflection in the mirror, taking in just how matted my hair is and how bruised my body looks all over. It's not exactly the best impression. No wonder he'd looked at me with so much disgust. Who would want a mate that looks like this? The bathroom is minuscule, consisting of just a shower, small basin, and toilet. Something tells me the Omegas share it. This is the Omega's bathroom, Maria says, starting the shower to my surprise. We all share it, so make sure you knock before you enter. I nod. It's simple enough to remember to do that. But Maria looks concerned now. You won't be able to call out if you're in the bathroom. Maybe we need to make some sort of signal for when you're in there, like 3 taps on the wall or something. That's a good idea. Somehow I don't want to be walked in on while I'm doing my business. That would be awkward, not to mention embarrassing. The water's heavenly, and although the soap doesn't particularly smell of anything, I happily lather it onto my body, finding small bottles of shampoo and conditioner, which makes my hair feel sleek and shiny again. I'd just forced myself to step out, when Maria comes bustling in. Her arms are loaded with clothes. Here, she says, hastily handing me some to put on, we need to go and prepare dinner for the pack. At least I'll know where the kitchen is, I thought to myself, following along behind her. Within moments, I'm standing there in an apron, chopping up vegetables and doing whatever Maria asks of me. The food gets placed onto a large dining table. When I say large, I mean easily feeds 50 people or more, for the pack members to help themselves. My stomach growls and Maria chuckles. The Omegas eat later. Pretty much whatever you can scrounge up for yourself in the kitchen. We all have odd hours and different break times, so it's what's easiest. Once everyone's finished eating, you and I will sit down and have some dinner. Thank God, my stomach is starving. I almost drool at the thought of food. Our mate Sabriel, what have I said about language? It's true though. I can't believe he's made us an Omega. He could have just rejected us and we could have gone on our merry way. We still could, but now we have the mate bond to contend with. Winter, you know that if you go too far from your mate, you end up in excruciating pain. The only upside is that he'll feel pain as well. Stupid man. We just have to make the best of it for now. Wish we could spit in his food or add hot sauce to it. I ignore my wolf, who's pouting. Instead, I begin to place plates down at every setting, rearranging the cutlery as I went. It's not long before I can hear the sounds of voices as pack members begin to come in, and I hustle, determined to get it done and away from everyone. It's not meant to be, however. Just as I'm about to place the last plate down, I feel a hand caressing my butt. I flinch and remove the hand, only to hear a man chuckle behind me. I stiffen instantly. "Aren't you a pretty little thing?" he whispers in my ear as I go completely still, his hand now on my arm. I start to feel panicked, tears coming to my eyes as I tremble, wanting nothing more than to wrench my arm away, but not sure how much trouble I'd get into doing that. Or even if I would get in trouble. Surely Alpha Kai wouldn't blame me for defending myself? How about you and I go upstairs to my room and have some fun, he whispers, and I shudder, Maria looking at me anxiously and looks about to intervene when I hear a familiar voice. There's a ferocious growl and everyone in the room goes deadly silent. Get your hands off of the girl, he growls, and I close my eyes in relief as the man turns around, to face his extremely pissed off Alpha. I didn't mean any harm, I just thought that you'd accost an Omega and force them to be with you. Alpha Kai says mildly, and I turn around to see his eyes flash towards me. Put him in the dungeon, Alpha Kai growled to some men nearby, who hastened to obey. I won't have someone mistreating another member of my pack, regardless if they are an Omega or not. He stares directly at me. Is he angry about this situation? Because I hadn't done anything to warrant such an attack. A woman with stunning black hair and a figure that makes me envious comes into the room and throws herself into Alpha Kai's arms. He smiles, but even I can tell that it's fake. God, my chest feels tight and I feel a spurt of jealousy as the woman gives him a long kiss, right in front of me. All I can think about is getting out of here. Sabriel wants to rip her eyes out. He has the decency to look somewhat ashamed as he speaks to me. You may go back to your Omega duties, he says calmly, and I can't help but glower at him a little before stomping back into the kitchen where Maria gives me another task to perform. By the time I finally crawl onto my woebegone mattress, I'm absolutely drained and all I can think about is the way Alpha Kai kissed the woman back and the way he held her. Was she the reason that he didn't want a mate? She had to be special to him. My heart hurts to think that I'm never going to be wanted by anyone, and I quickly close my eyes. I knew tomorrow was going to be just as difficult, but it didn't stop me from quietly sobbing into my pillow. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.